Hey friends, Mike LaBelle with you. Night number 2 as we go to CFR Memories. And well, as previously planned last night, we had 2 out of the 3. And tonight, it looks like we have 2 out of the 3. Right beside me is the lovely and multi-talented Niki Flundra. And below her is probably one of the coolest guys you'll ever run into inside the rodeo arena, and Kynan Vine. Welcome, guys.
Thank you. Good to
So
be
I have kind of an introduction for each one of you because as an announcer, you do your homework, okay? So when I look to Niki Flundra, I see an 8-time Dress Act of the Year, trick rider, Liberty horse trainer, stunt woman, choreographer, but probably the coolest title you have of all is mom.
Yep.
Kynan Vine below me is the manager of Rodeo and Chuck Wagons for the Calgary Stampede, a former professional bullfighter, a husband, a father, shoot boss, but probably the coolest thing I could ever call you, Kynan, would be an organ donor, because if people haven't heard that story, I think that's probably one of the most selfless things you could do is donate an organ to your mother.
When you said that, the last one, I'm like, oh, I forgot about that, actually.
How do you forget about that, buddy?
Yeah, that's a long time ago now, it feels like. So
yeah, well,
crazy.
The brainstorm behind this isn't in front of the screen with us. She's just excluded herself so she can dive into a double cheeseburger, I'm sure, Jody Seeley. And I thought this was cool when we talked about CFR Memories. And, you know, I'm going to start with you, Niki. You've worked at the Canadian Finals for I don't know how many years as kind of the choreographer to the opening of each and every night. You help with a little bit of the run of show and what goes on. You help with all the different flag girls, what goes on with that. But even more so, you were an entertainer there, being a trick rider and whatnot, and come in and flames and stunt woman, everything. What's CFR mean to you?
Oh gosh.
Whoa. Stop the press. Look who's here, Mr. Remple. How are you?
I'm fine, guys. How are you guys doing?
Good. Well, I'm going to stop you for a second, Niki, and I'm going to introduce probably a guy, and Kynan and I talked about it yesterday. Is it about 26 years that you've been a pickup man at the Canadian Finals Rodeo, Gary?
No, it's not that much. It's only 21.
21. Okay.
Yeah, I said 22.
Yeah, well, it's good. I mean, that is a long time. A former Cowboy of the Year, probably one of the guys that could tell a lot of stories from inside the arena. We're glad to have you with us. We're going to get Niki to tell us maybe one of the cool stories she has from the Canadian Finals.
Oh gosh, I have a lot. Yeah, the Canadian Finals means just a ton to me. I've been involved in that rodeo in one way or another since I was probably 15 years old. I think the first year I was there, my dad was dropping me from the rafters into the arena or some crazy idea that he had. But yeah, it means a ton to me, and it always has. It's one of my favorite events to go to. I look forward to it every year. Being involved in one capacity or another, and it's a really cool thing to be a part of. Been very lucky.
And it's great. I mean, for people that don't know, I hang around in the bowels of Westerner Park and get ready to do some interviews and some television, and I see the likes of Gary riding by me and you running by me, and Keenan's on his way out to the chutes to get things going. It's pretty interesting to see all the little pieces that come together to make a really big show. And for you, Kynan, you're out in front of the chutes and you're in the dirt with everyone. What's a night like there? One event, one night at the CFR when you get ready for it. It's got to be fairly fast paced for you.
Yeah, CFR is a fast paced rodeo, and there's a lot going on with 12 contestants in each of the events, especially in the rough stock. And it's been a little different moving over to Westerner Park than it was in Northlands, but you got to keep things clicking. And sometimes just depending, it's a little different than most rodeos where you have the luxury of setting up, the chutes to maybe have half the animals on one delivery and half on the other. Sometimes the way the draw goes at the CFR, you can have 9 or even 10 horses out one side, and in the saddle bronc ride, and that's
Oh, I think my friend Keith.
Can you hear me? Sorry.
This is oh. All right.
Hello?
It says keep going.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, we can hear you now.
Yeah. So no, it's I always say though, I get caught up watching the rodeo sometimes, and but half the time you don't see most of it because you're doing whatever has to come next, and but it is the best seat in the house, standing down in front of the buck and shoots. And last year I took a little bit of a different seat and was up in the announcer stand, calling the production, and again, it's great to be in that role too, because you get to watch the performances unfold and get to be a part of watching, some people reach their dreams and other big moments that happen. So it's a pretty cool place to be when you're just a small part of putting it on.
Well, and it's fabulous. And I'm going to go to you now, Gary, because I don't know that anyone's made as many laps around what was Northlands and now Westerner Park. When we talk about the Canadian Finals Rodeo, the stories and the things that you see and hear from your vantage point have to be it has to be quite something being a pickup man there.
Yeah, it was quite an honorary thing to be there that many times. And yes, there's been a lot of things went on over the years. I mean, it's been a long time, and I think one of some of the most things that I can remember, like some of the great rides and those kind of things, like really stand out.
Now, if there's one moment, and you as a pickup man, us as announcers, we say your job is twofold. You take care of the cowboys and you take care of the stock. If there's one moment that stands out in your history is, you going, wow, that was cool, or that was something I'm never going to forget, what would it be inside the arena?
Well, the day I roped the bull just as he jumped into the stands, that would be the ultimate one right there. Yeah.
I was going to guess that, and I'm sure Keenan and Nikki both would have too. And I don't know that there's a loop thrown that will have the historical value that one does. What do you think, Keenan?
Oh yeah, I mean the timing on it, and other than the unfortunate events that unfolded, it was a pretty epic shot, really, and it saved a lot of people, obviously. But
the bull surprised me just about as much as everybody else when he jumped. So it was just one of them things. About the time the loop ran over his head, he jumped. So yeah,
that was crazy.
It is. Now, Nikki, you have been the choreographer to the openings, and I've been there for a number of years, along with Gary, along with Keenan. We've seen some pretty cool ideas that you've done. Where do they come from?
Gosh, I don't know. I just love to try to find new ways to really highlight what our sport is all about. I love to put the cowboys and cowgirls in the spotlights, and I think we have such an opportunity with this sport that we all love, and I just really want to see it have the credit that it deserves. So I just try to come up with different ways, but memorable, and things that will make the people in the stands really feel like they are part of something really exciting. That's always the goal. And I don't know where they come from. I guess I have a brain that thinks in a little bit of outside of the box ways, but I really enjoy putting them together and trying to feature the superstars of our sport.
Well, and that's it. And I mean, you look back and there's just so many wonderful ones. It's quite something. Now, over the course of your career, Keenan, there has been a lot of changes at the Canadian Finals Rodeo. Obviously, the change to Westerner Park, which I think do a fabulous job. Emancipation Company, they do a wonderful job up there. what's kind of the biggest change you've seen in the CFR and in rodeo in the past decade, we'll say?
I think in rodeo, especially at these big rodeos, is the production for sure. It's changed, and it has to, because other sports are changing and entertainment's changing, and it's become a lot quicker paced. It's become a lot more about the production value that we're providing. And, and there's so many now that are compared to. So you have the San Antonios and the Houstons and the NFR. And if you want to keep pace with what these guys are doing, and you have to have the biggest and the best production that you can have. That's the lights, that's the pyrotechnics, and then the pace. And I think, it has changed drastically in the last 10 years, probably, as compared. I watched some of the old rodeo tapes, which aren't even that old, but from the early 2000s, and there's a lot that's different. I mean, in the early 2000s, there wasn't even music director at most of the rodeos. I said to Bob, like, I remember sitting in the announcer stand when my dad was a rodeo clown, and the announcer just repeated all the jokes back to the crowd because he would just yell them up. And then meanwhile, they had a tape recorder, and they would hold the microphone over to the tape recorder to play the music and then announce. And I mean, it's just not even close to being like that anymore. And some things you kind of wish they were still around, and some of the things that are happening right now are super exciting.
Yeah. And for you, Gary, obviously you being, I'm going to say, the veteran of our Canadian finals, you've seen a lot of changes. You've seen a lot of things happen, probably more with the Cowboys and the stock. What is the biggest difference you see with the Cowboys and the stock now compared to 20, 25 years ago?
Well, there's a lot of I think stock's getting better all the time. I mean, the contestants, they come and go, and there's great ones in each era. Like right now, there's so many young, good Canadian bronc riders coming up that I think is just so cool to watch them. You've been around, and those kids, you see them when they start, and then as they develop, and then like last year at the Canadian finals, I think like 4 or 5 of them young kids made the finals, and it was just awesome to see them there now that they're starting to come on. And I think that for me, the whole highlight last year of that Canadian finals, when Ben Anderson on the last day rode Get Smart for like 91 points, and I told Ben, I said, you just made my whole finals. That was awesome.
Yeah.
No, and that's it. And I mean, you couldn't hit on a better group of guys than those young bronc riders, and they're quite something. Niki, you're one of those people that's kind of, I'm going to call you a chameleon in rodeo. You just fit in, whether you're inside the arena, outside the arena, you're trick riding, you're Liberty horse training. You're now back to barrel racing because Dustin doesn't mind looking after the kids every now and again. And, how do you fit it all in, especially when you're at somewhere like the Canadian finals? Give us a quick rundown of what a day in the life of Niki Flundra looks like at the CFR.
Oh, I'm sure you want to have a look at that. I don't know, 3 kids, and that's more than anything now. It used to be easy. Now it's not. 3 kids is definitely the biggest thing. So I don't know, Dustin's incredible. I have my mom and dad help a lot, and Dustin's mom and dad and stepmom help a lot. And so we just make it work, and we're really lucky to have the people around us that we do.
Perfect. Now, Kynan, not a lot of people know this, and some do. And I'm going to invite anyone, if you're watching live, go ahead. Jody's behind the scenes, and she'll be happy to post your questions up. Oh, yeah, we'll ask your questions. So if you have something, just go ahead, and Jody will post it to us. But Kynan, we get to the arena, say 2.5 hours before the performance, and you go into production meetings. You go into different types of meetings to try and set how the show's going to go. Realistically, how close do we come with that? Because, you know, you want to fit things into a bit of a time frame. Give us an idea of what a production meeting looks like at the CFR.
Well, yeah, by the time we get to a production meeting, we're, you know, hopefully we're all on the same page, and we're really just doing our final rundown of what things are supposed to end up looking like. And that's kind of after probably close to a day. Even we start the night as soon as the rodeo's over, we start on the next day's performance and getting everything set for production. But the production meeting is, you know, to get everybody on the same page, and hopefully things go the way they're supposed to go. And I mean, you know, I would never say this in public. I'll say it right now, but for my run of shows, I always cheat about 15 minutes of time for here and there, so that I can feel good about myself when we finish on the exact time that I have at the end of the sheet. But usually that's not going to happen. So, you know, I mean, we plan for, you know, every scenario and then put that into the timing, and hopefully everything goes the way it's supposed to go. And sometimes it does, and sometimes it doesn't. But I mean, you know, with proper planning, and Niki could probably say just as easy as I can, you know, sometimes I think over the past number of years, we've even been able to, you know, do the rodeo up. It's probably darn near 45 minutes from what it used to be. So it's there's a lot that goes into that, though.
That's great.
45 minutes quicker than it used to be.
Oh, it's yeah. Gary, pickup man at the rodeo, and people see what you do inside the arena. You and I have the opportunity to visit at every Canadian Finals, and they get to watch you come out there, and you're on one of your beautiful horses with, you know, what I consider one of the coolest brands ever, your Shooting Star on the cheek. And what goes in for you into a day? Because not many people realize you just don't bring one horse in right into the arena and everything's good. You guys have a lot of planning yourselves that go into a night at the Canadian Finals.
Yeah, like we probably, like as a rule, you'd have 4 to 5 horses. So your day starts in the morning. You go down, look after them, clean their stalls, do that kind of thing, and then, you know, you got a few hours where it's kind of on your own deal, and then, you know, you head down. I'm kind of like Kynan, you know, you've got to head down there about 3 hours before the rodeo and start cleaning your horses up, getting them saddled and warmed up. And it's a kind of an all day thing. It's not that you're real busy, but you're doing something all the time.
We look at the whole performance of a Canadian Finals, and I'm still in awe when you think about packing that many people into one venue. You run off the rodeo as quick as you can. It's one of those things that I think the supporting cast is probably the unsung heroes. And last night I called our sports medicine team the unsung heroes. But, you know, truly you guys, there's no accolades for what goes in for you guys. Nick, if there's one person that you think, you know, it's kind of that person that kind of pulls it all together during the show, who would it be?
Oh, I'd say the fellow there to the left of my screen that you're talking to. Kynan does. I mean, I watch those meetings. He makes it. It's awesome to watch him. He is so good at what he does. It was so lucky to have him. Any rodeo would be lucky to have him.
I just got to throw one question out there, Kynan, because, you know, people have been following it now for a couple of years. Your picks prior to the rodeo performance, how much thought and preparation goes into making your live video picks before every performance? I know that you and Jeff Rob, that's quite a duo.
By the time I get to making my picks, I've probably been at the arena since 7 a.m. and nonstop. And, you know, I just go with my best guess, really, and hope that it works out, because I don't get to put a lot of thought into it. But luckily for me, you know, I get the odd one right, but normally I actually don't. I don't get any right at all. So
so you're you're more of like the charity for Jeff Ross. Oh, look at Jody. She's saying yes. Yeah,
I'm just the chosen person to lose to Jeff, and you know you have to. He's the general manager of the CPRA. Somebody's got to lose to him, right?
Exactly. I know we all get a laugh out of it. Gary, you spend a ton of time inside that arena. You ride up and down the fence, and you guys position yourself. And I mean, people in the stands are always talking, saying hi, or doing something. What's kind of the neatest thing that you've seen in the stands, or people have said to you as you're riding by? You've kind of done the double take and went, "Wow, I can't believe I just seen that."
Well, yeah, I don't know. I know it's you get a lot of people complimentary on your horses, or you'll holler, you do a great job, or that kind of thing. And you sit there where we're supposed to sit, and you kind of look in the stands, and you can see people that you know from all other rodeo committees and places like that. And it's all cool. And then you get the people where you sit in front and they say, you're blocking our way. Like, could you move it somewhere else? I said, I'm sorry, no matter where I sit, I'm going to be in somebody's way. I'll move every once in a while, so I'm not in front of you all the time.
Yeah, can you take your beddings?
Pretty good stuff out of the stands, but most of the time it's all compliments. Sometimes, it's not, but as a rule it is.
Gary, they won't get a better view than you.
I know. Another thing I was going to mention, Niki's doing her thing, always getting her ready for the grand entry and doing her stuff, and she'll come up and say, "Gary, could we get you to do this?" And I said, "What? What do you want me to do?" "Well, you can do it. It'll be easy." "Oh yeah, gotcha."
Oh.
Yeah, he's good.
Has anyone ever offered you a drink from the stands, Gary?
Yeah, and I've really been tempted to take it, but I've always figured there's somebody of higher powers watching me, and it wouldn't go very good. So I kind of steer away from that.
You got to get yourself a drink holder. Just should be, there should be a minimum.
Yeah, for sure.
Kynan, you've seen a lot of things, and take us through the eyes of one of the bullfighters at the CFR. I mean, you're talking about the top 12 guys, the best of the best in Canadian professional rodeo, and they're up against bulls have changed. They are now, they're a lot tougher, I think, than what they were back in the day. Take us through the eyes of what they see inside the arena and what they go through.
Well, I mean, the other cool thing is it's like Gary and the pickup man is the bullfighters are voted on to be there from the top bull riders. And so it's quite an honor if you are selected to go and work the Canadian finals as a bullfighter or pickup man. And those guys, in the arena, really what they're watching for, I mean, just like at any other rodeo, but they're there to put their lives on the line. The biggest difference is the size of the arena, actually, in the proximity to the chutes that they're going to be standing at. And those guys are the best in the business by the time you get to the Canadian finals. So they're really stepping up their game, though, because these people are putting it on the line for a Canadian championship every night. And things are going to happen, things that don't normally happen throughout the season. Guys are just trying a lot harder and trying to make the whistle. And so, I mean, some of the craziest wrecks that I've seen are at the Canadian finals, and that's just because guys are trying so hard.
That's it for sure. It's they are a special breed of person that does that. Now, Nick, I want to touch on something because you talked about it earlier. Some of the crazy stuff that your father, before you, had you do in openings. Tell us some of the crazy stunts that he was kind enough to put his second oldest daughter through.
Well, I'll start out by saying I would not be where I was without my father. He is awesome. Anybody who knows my dad knows he's a cool cat, and he kind of walks to the beat of his own drum. But yes, he had some pretty funny ideas. One year at the Strathmore Rodeo, he sent me off the top of the grandstand on some cable that, I don't know, I was like 15 at the time, and the brakes failed, and I hit those chutes going 100 miles an hour and nearly didn't walk again. It was not good. My mom almost left my dad over that one, I think. What else?
Didn't you zip line at the CFR one year? Or,
yes,
I don't know.
Done the zip line a few times. He had this idea that he could carry like the fireworks off the flag standing up, that surely I could have sparks out of my fingertips when I did the suicide drag that would leave a trail of fire. So the first time we tried that, I burned my eyebrows off. So I mean, yeah, Jimmy.
I mean, I'm
Dad now. No, Dad, that's not a good idea.
well, I'm starting to wonder if Gary doesn't have it right. Every time you ask for something, he's going, "Whoa, this push the brakes."
Yeah, I can remember some of those things that Niki's talking about too. Yeah,
I remember was it Kelly Armstrong on the bull, and he lifted him off the bull?
Yeah.
Yeah, like I'm way toned down compared to my dad. Like I'm. Yeah.
Well, what about the night they rode the Harleys into the arena?
Yeah, well, Jim was still involved in those days, I think. It was cool though. It was no. But yeah, he's not.
All right, so no major injuries for you, and I'm going to touch on Gary's because I was kind of there firsthand when he came in. How's the leg feeling, Gary?
oh, it's pretty good. It's a little tender yet, and basically it's all right. My knee gives me problems. My knee hurts more than anything. The break is fine where wet was, but the knee is still a little tender.
Well, and not a whole bunch of people might know, but why don't you go through what happened? Because it seemed fairly, I don't want to say insignificant, because that's not fair to say, but all of a sudden you ride back and like we got our TV set up right there, and you ride in and you said, I think I broke my leg.
That's not what I said first, but yeah, I did say that.
No.
Well, it's I picked that horse up a lot of times as timely delivery at Calgary as a stud. And I knew exactly, like Sam Kelts was on him. I knew exactly what he was going to do. And he comes around there really nice. And I step in there and Sam gets off. Routine, I go into the strip and shoot. Well, it's the first year at Red Deer there. And the catch pin's a little narrow. And so when I took him in, he was on my right-hand side. And I let him go, but I was against the fence. So as he starts going by me, I got to turn in towards him to go back in the arena. And he's going by, and as I turned, he just up and kicked me. And he's never kicked before, and I couldn't believe it. It's up and whack, got me. And I hollered, and Tyler Kraft was standing right there, and he said, "What's the matter?" And I said, "The bleepity bleepity bleep just kicked me." And so I turned and I was going to ride out of the arena or back into the arena. And I started out there and I couldn't put no weight on my foot. And I hollered, I said, I think my leg's broke. And so some guys come along beside me and they took me off. And so as quick as they got me on the ground, I was taking my stuff off. Guys were taking my shafts, my pads, and Tyler was standing right there. So he's starting to put everything on. And I guess it took a little longer than I thought, but yeah, we didn't hold it up too long, I don't think.
Didn't take that
long. The funniest part, well, I shouldn't say it was funny, but Kevin Gerlitz was one of the guys that helped me out of the arena.
Yeah.
And we get onto the stretcher, and before I could even say anything, they're running at me with scissors. They're cutting my pants off. They're cutting everything off, and they're going to start cutting my boots off. And I said, "No, that's it. Don't cut those boots. We got to get them off." I said to Kevin, I said, pull that boot off. He says, "Are you sure?" I said, "Yeah, pull it off." So he gets back there, and I'll never forget. He says, "Are you ready, Rep?" And I said, "Yeah, go for it." He pulls it off. Well, the funny part, when I get to the hospital, that bone, they x-rayed it. It's right in place. So I think Kevin said it for me when he pulled that boot off.
Well, and I was standing there when they did it, and you said, "Don't cut that boot off. These are my good boots." Oh, yeah, and my wallet's in there, too. I don't need to lose any more.
Exactly. Yeah.
Perfect segue for you, Kynan. We take, something like that would be an accident that happens. How do you go about filling that small little void, from a production standpoint? You're kind of running the show up top. You're there with Brett and Dave, as well as Sean Morton. You're in the booth. How do you cover that void?
Yeah, the announcers are going to have some preset messaging that we're going to do first off, and anytime a cowboy or cowgirl's injured, and if it's an animal, then we deal with it kind of the same way. But we just fill the time, and luckily now with video production and all the things we have available, we can go to the crowd and do some activation and some fun stuff with the crowd and try to distract from what's going on. The good thing about Gary was that he wasn't even in the arena. So that was kind of our best case scenario, not for Gary, but for the rest of us. And some of them happen right in the middle of the arena, and that makes it a lot tougher. So, you do what you can do and fill the time. And sometimes you don't try to distract because it's serious business, whether it's, the highlights or the lowlights. That's all part of the game. And you don't want to take away from that either, how serious the sport is. So.
No, and that's it. One last takeaway from each one of you. And Niki, if there's one takeaway that you've, from your years at the Canadian Finals Rodeo, one lesson that it's taught you or made you a better person than the person you are, what would it be?
I think just to kind of learn to best that you can, and learn to, roll with punches, think through things really fast, but be as absolutely prepared as you can. Do everything you can do beforehand to have things 100% ready, because the more you do that, the better the chance everything comes there are. So it's taught live taught me to be really ready for anything.
And how about you, Kynan? I mean, you have sat at some of the biggest venues, some of the biggest rodeos, and I guess I'm going to take the young cowboy into it. I know you've been working a lot with Brett Monia and, some of the bullfighters and things like that. If there's one thing that you could say to a young cowboy who's getting ready and wants his goals to be the Canadian Finals Rodeo, what would it be?
I think, obviously, if you want to get to the Canadian Finals or be at that level, you got to be willing to do whatever it takes to get there. And I think on our side, on the contract personnel side or production side, even more so, and you get to these big rodeos and you realize kind of what Niki just said, that everybody's just part of a big team. And for me, I'm pretty particular and about pretty much every single aspect of everything. So it was good to have a mentor like, somebody like Don Johansson, who is also very particular, and you just prepare for absolutely every scenario. And, I think that's the preparation that goes into getting there, whether you're an athlete or you're contract personnel, is the biggest thing. Don't be afraid to put in the hard work. And I remember the first year when I worked for the CPRA, I was up there taking banners down and putting them back up because I didn't think they were even enough on the fence. And Ted Stobin came up and said, why are you doing that? There's lots of people that can put up banners. And if you want something done the way you want it done, just do it yourself. So, you just got to be willing to do whatever it takes as part of the team. And the bigger the rodeo, the bigger the show, I think the more you got to be willing to pitch in to make it happen.
No, that's great advice, and I know a lot of rodeos, no matter what size. That's very sound advice. Longevity in the sport, Gary. What is the secret to the number of years? I mean, what are you, 45 now? Did you start when you were 12, or how did this work?
Yeah, pretty much. You got it right. Yeah. Well, I don't know. I've been pretty lucky.
What's the secret to longevity?
Well, I don't know. I've been blessed, I guess, with being in good shape all the time. I mean, I try to work. It's a little harder to stay in shape now than it used to be, but you kind of got to work at that. And, as far as injuries and stuff go, I've had a few, but nothing as serious as that broken leg. Stuff you just kind of live with, and work through. I guess I've been lucky. And also I've gotten to work, some of the biggest rodeos in the world, which is pretty awesome, I think. And worked for a great outfit, basically for Calgary now and stuff like that. And, they're just awesome to work with. And it's so cool to be picking up great bucking horses all the time, whether they're just Calgary horses. You go to Houston and they got 20 contractors coming through there with their best stock, and it's pretty cool to be around that caliber of stock mostly all the time. And it's a lot of fun.
Well, it is. And, I want to thank all three of you. It's been a fun night, some great memories, a lot of laughs, and I can't wait until 2021 where I don't think it'll be as warm as it has this November. That's kind of the one thing that we're missing out on this year. When was the last time it was 24 degrees at the start of CFR?
Not very often it wasn't.
Mine is 24.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, mine is right. I remember all them white knuckle drives going home. We're coming home from Edmonton a lot of times. It's pure ice roads and stuff. My gosh, it'd be 25, 30 mile an hour for 200 miles. So, yeah, kind of nerve wracking.
No. Well, that's it. Well, I thank each and every one of you guys. It's been a lot of fun, and I can't wait for 2021 till we can all get together again at Westerner Park, and it'll be I can't wait. It's so much fun seeing all you guys at the CFR.
Yeah, good seeing you, Mike.
Thanks, Mike.
Thanks, Keith. Thanks, Keenan. Thanks, Gary.